أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجهم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر جل جلاله الله أكبر الله أكبر جل جلاله ربي أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن عليا ولي الله والسلام أشهد أن عليا حجة الله عليه الصلاة والسلام حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له بسم الله اللهم اجعل قلبي بارا معيشي كارا وعملي سارا ورزقي دارا وأولادي إبراهيم واجعلني عند قبر نبيك مستقرا وقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين فاطر السماوات والأرضين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأطهرين الهداة المهديين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I begin this khutbah by offering my congratulations to all of us on the very blessed occasion of the birth anniversary of our 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam. According to narrations, our 8th Imam, Imam Ali Rida alayhi salam, was born on the 11th of the month of Dhul Qa'dah, and this was in the year 148 of Hijrah. And so before I talk a little bit about the 8th Imam alayhi salam, just a brief reminder of the biography and some of the history. Our 7th Imam is Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wassalam, and his son, Imam Ali Rida, is our 8th Imam. Both of these Imams lived for approximately 55 years. So their lifespan was approximately the same, 55 years. Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi salam was born in the year 128, according to some narrations, and he died in the year 183 as a martyr. He was poisoned by Harun, who the Muslims know as Harun al-Rashid. Rashid comes from the same root as the word Rashid when people talk about al-Khulafa al-Rashidun. And just like we don't consider those Khulafa to be Rashidun, we don't consider Harun or Ma'mun to be Harun al-Rashid or Ma'mun al-Rashid. It means rightly guided or wise. And this was a title given by the Muslims because for those Muslims who admired the wealth and the prestige and the superficial military power and intellectual capacity of people like Harun and even more so Ma'mun, then they will of course say he was the great. Just like people will talk about their emperors and say they were great. You have Alexander the Great. What made him great? His empire, his kingdom, not his moral or his spiritual or even his intellectual capacity. And the same thing is true in this country. Washington, the first president, is considered to be the father of the country and a role model, and so many legends are told. Even when I went to public school, I remember that it was almost as if the character of George Washington was like the character of a prophet. He could not tell a lie, and he was so strong. And then you grow up and you realize that these people were not great. But this society, it creates its heroes, and it gives them the name great. Alexander the Great was in ancient history. Russians and the British, and every society, they have people they consider great. Winston Churchill is another example of an evil man. If we want to compare, then we should say worse than Stalin. Worse, perhaps, than Hitler in terms of the number of people that he killed in India, in Africa, in Iraq, first use of chemical weapons, but a statesman and a great person. So Harun and Ma'mun are like that. Yes, they might have won certain battles, just like Churchill won World War II and George Washington won the Revolutionary War, and we don't need to deny that. Harun and Ma'mun were very impressive, but this is also an idol. They were not Rashid. Sometimes people call them Ghawi. Ghawi is the Arabic antonym of Rashid, meaning the misguided. But that is also a title. Rashid is not their name. It's a title of honor given by those people who consider them to be honorable. And if we use it kind of just as a descriptor, there's no harm. But we should not be confused that they had any kind of religious honor that they were worthy of. So he martyred our 7th Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim. Imam Musa Kadhim became the Imam approximately at the age of 20. And he remained the Imam for 35 years. So he was born in 128. He became the Imam in 148 when his father, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, passed away. And then he remained the Imam until the year 183 when he was martyred. So his lifespan was 55 years, 20 years he was under the guidance and training of his father, our sixth Imam, and then he assumed the office of Imamat for 30 years, 35 years approximately. Imam Ali Rida alayhi salam was the opposite. So he was born in 148, the year in which Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam passed away, and he was under the training and guidance of his father, our seventh Imam, for 35 years until the year 183. And then he assumed the office of Imamat for 20 years until the year 203. Now, I'm not expecting you to remember those dates, and it is not important to know these details, but it is important for us to have some familiarity with the life and the times of our Imams. Because when we understand these circumstances, several things come. First of all, it makes us better able to appreciate the struggles of our Imams. When we understand the social and the historical context and the time in which they lived. And second, it also gives us a better appreciation for how they are a role model for us. So just as an example, all of you are familiar that Imam Jawad alayhi salam and Imam Ali Naqi al-Hadi alayhi salam, our two Imams after Imam Rida, the 9th Imam and the 10th Imam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, they also assumed imamat at a young age as children. Before the Imam of our time, Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Askari, ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif, who became an Imam at a very young age. But the first Imam who became an Imam at a very young age was actually Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim, because he was about 20 years of age. And in that time, imagine when you have senior students, fuqaha, ulama, who had studied with Imam Sadiq, and even Imam Baqir alayhi salam, who were still alive at that time. Mostly students of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, but many students of Imam Baqir, they survived into the era of Imam Musa al-Kadhim, Zurara ibn A'yan, Abu Hamza al-Thumali, whose dua many of you have heard of and maybe recited in the month of Ramadan, a student of Imam Zainul Abidin and Imam Baqir and Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. So some of these people were very old, very highly respected, very learned, and now Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam, as a young man of the age of 20, is their Imam. So if you read in history that some people had doubts about Imam Musa Kadhim, if you read in history that there was sometimes a confusion among the companions, this history is relevant to that. The confusion was partially because Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi salam was so young. The community did not know him well. And why did Allah create these circumstances? One of the reasons is, just as some of the Shia were questioning that can such a young person become an Imam, the enemies of the Imam were also questioning. And because the enemies of the Imam were questioning, this means that the Imam was somewhat protected. They didn't assume that the Imam would be able to succeed in his mission. And so the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, they kind of relaxed in their spying, in their surveillance, in their oppression. And this gave the Imams an opportunity to teach and to spread Islam with a little bit less restriction. And when they showed their miraculous knowledge, then it also showed their companions that an Imam is not just a faqih. An Imam is not just an alim like any other alim who studies from his elders and then teaches. Otherwise, you need to be of a certain age before you can teach. An Imam is somebody who has that guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah can give hikmah and ilm to a child just like He can give hikmah and ilm to an adult. So it's good for us to know the history, at least so we have a general idea of these circumstances. And the way in which our imams dealt with some of the challenges they had from family members, from followers, from the general Muslim community, they are a reminder for how we should deal with other people who may disagree with us, or maybe followers of a false path. That doesn't mean that we always cause arguments or pick fights. Similarly, our 8th Imam, and now let me come to Imam Ali Rida alayhi salatu wasalam. So as I said, he was 35 years of age, approximately, when Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi salam passed away. And he was the Imam for about 20 years. 183, during the rule of Harun, and then after Harun died, and there was a disagreement, Amin became the first caliph. Then there was a civil war between Harun's two sons, Amin, who was favored by the nobility and by many of the Arabs and Banu Abbas, and Ma'mun, who was favored by many portions of the army who were from Khurasan and Persians, Mawali and Ajam. And then Ma'mun won that civil war, conquered Baghdad from Khurasan, and became the undisputed leader of the Muslim empire, not the Muslim Ummah. So during these two caliphs, Imam Ali Rida was the Imam. Now, how old was Imam Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad alayhi salatu wassalam when he became the Imam? He was about 8 years of age. And Imam Ali Rida was the Imam for 20 years. So imagine that for about 12 years, Imam Ali Rida alayhi salam was the Imam, and he did not have a son. And he became the Imam at the age of about 35. So, just once again to remind you, 148, Imam Ali Rida is born. Imam Jawad is born in about 195. So how many years did Imam Ali Rida alayhi salatu wassalam live before he became the Imam and after he became the Imam without having a son and a successor? About 47 years. This is a supreme test for any human being, that they come to well past middle age, especially in that time. And even today, if somebody spends 20 years, 25 years trying to have a child or expecting a child, and they do not have a child, it is a supreme test. The Quran mentions how some of the prophets of Allah and other very close people to Allah, they were subjected to that trial by Allah. But this was not a trial just for Imam Rida alayhi salam. It was a trial for the Shia. Because by this time, people knew that the Imam must be the son of the previous Imam. And so one common question, people came to Imam Rida alayhi salam and they said, if you are the Imam, then who is your son and who is your successor? And as you know, that if somebody does not have children by close to the age of 50, then people, they don't trust that Allah has wisdom. They don't trust that Allah has a plan. They say this person is not going to have any children anymore. So they would make that same kind of false assumption about Imam Rida. And they accused him. You don't have a successor. You don't have a son. And then, na'udhu billah, when Imam Jawad was born, then they raised so many questions about the qualification and the worthiness of Imam Jawad alayhi salam to be the successor of Imam Rida. So it's a personal test for any human being not to be able to have children. But for Imam Rida alayhi salam, it was also a test because he saw how it was affecting people and their faith and their ability to recognize the truth of the teachings of Imam Rida. It was a spiritual and a religious test for the Shia community. But Allah gave that test after He had first given the hujjah to people. The knowledge, the guidance, the standard by which they should measure who is haqq and who is batil. And this is why we find that although it was a difficult test, although people raised questions and they came to Imam Rida and they asked, who is your successor? And Imam Rida, he used to tell them that I will have a son and he will be my successor. And many people, they didn't believe the Imam. But then years later, when Imam Jawad was born, and Imam Jawad in his young age was able to lead the Muslim Ummah, that's when they came back and they said Imam Rida is a true Imam. Because who would be able to say with such certainty and such confidence that this is the way that Allah is going to pass on His message? And anybody else who was not guided by Allah that this is the answer you are to give, maybe they would give a general answer. Allah will show, and then maybe they will think in their mind, let me see if one of my brothers, one of my nephews, somebody can be a successor. This is how a king would do it. This is how a normal human being would think if they had landed property or a kingdom or a business they wanted to pass on. But the Imam was not a king. He was guided by Allah, and he told people he was going to have a son and a successor, and who the Imam was after him, even before Imam Jawad was born. Even before there was this evidence. So it's a very good example for us of patience, of trust in the plan of Allah. And then some people Allah gives children, some people Allah does not give children, some people Allah gives them children, God forbid, and takes them away in this life. All of those are different forms of tests. But whatever the test, this is according to the plan and the wisdom of Allah. If I have children and somebody does not have children, or if somebody has children and then, God forbid, they lose their children to sickness or to an accident or other circumstances, then they should not say Allah has turned His back upon me. These were tests that Allah subjected even our Prophet and our Imams to, and we learn from them. Imam Rida alayhi salatu was salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, he was the Imam that for us represents the completion of the instruction to the Shia of the path of Imamat. This is why the succession to Imam Rida was not contested. Imam Jawad was universally accepted as the Imam and the successor through the cumulative teachings of all of our Imams. Imam Rida alayhi salam has a hadith, and I will conclude with this hadith. He says, Kamaluddin wilayatuna wal bara'atu min aduwina. The completion and the perfection of your deen is to have our wilayah and to separate yourself from our enemies. And the reason for this is that your religion is perfected when you always have the greatest standard of what to aspire to. Sometimes, I think that if I just had a bigger house, then I wouldn't be so crowded and I would have a good life. What happens? You're able to rent or purchase a bigger house and you realize your back still hurts sometimes. You still sometimes get insomnia. Sometimes you still have stress at work. Then you say, if I just get a better job, then things will be better. If I just do this, then everything will be good. I just need an extra $10,000 and then I'll be happy. And what happens? It creates more needs rather than solutions. So Kamaluddin is for you to have that standard that you are always going to be inspired by, to be a better Muslim, to be a better person, and you will never then find it and realize that it's missing something. If you have a human hero, an fallible hero, eventually you will realize that that person is limited and makes mistakes. For children, sometimes their parents are a hero, and they realize their parents make mistakes. Sometimes we have somebody that we are impressed by until we come close and we become disillusioned. But Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam, their wilayah and separation from their enemies, that is the standard. That you're never going to move into that house and say, this is not what I was looking for. You're never going to come close to them and say, I am now disillusioned. The closer you come, the more you will be inspired. The more you will be revived in your mind and in your heart and in your soul. Kamaluddin, perfection of your deen. Wilayatuna is our wilayah. Wal-bara'atu min aduwina, and separation from our enemies. That's the path of continually increasing insight and religious growth. May Allah grant us wilayah of Ahlul Bayt and bara'ah from the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna a'ataynaka al-kawthar. Fasalli li rabbika wanhar. Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Abil Qasim Muhammad. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum. I seek forgiveness from Allah for myself and for all of us present. We know that in our life, there are limited opportunities we have to seek forgiveness and to make up for our shortcomings and our mistakes. And this is why it's very important for us to benefit from those times that have a special barakah and blessing. And one of those times is the day of Friday. Since we have limited time, if we turn to Allah, admit our shortcomings, and then ask Allah for His help in overcoming our own weaknesses, and through His assistance, acquiring a new sincerity to serve His path. Then we will be able to triumph in the struggles of this life. May Allah forgive me and all of us present, and all of our fellow believing brothers and sisters, those who are alive and those who have gone on to their eternal abode in the hereafter. May Allah grant all of us the prayers and the intercession and the company of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad in the heavenly abode with the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that greatest reward represented by the company of Ahlul Bayt. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the fulfillment of our worldly and our religious hajat, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never to separate us from the path of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Assalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala Aliyin Amir al-Mu'mineen wa ala Fatimat al-Zahra Sayyidati Nisa al-Alameen وعلى الحسن والحسين وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه وظهوره وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. صلاة الجمعة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إلهي هذه صلاتي صليتها لا لحاجة منك عليها ولا رغبة منك فيها إلا تعظيما وطاعة وإجابة لك إلى ما أمرتني به إلهي إن كان فيها خلال ونقص من نيتها وقيامها وقراءتها وركوعها وسجودها فلا تواخذني وتفضل علي بالقبول والغفران برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد.
There are a number of members of our community who are ill. Let us pray to Allah for their recovery and for their siha and shifa and afiyah for all believers who are sick. Some members of our community are hospitalized. I won't mention all the names. Many of you, though, may have heard that our own brother Imtiaz Jamil is ill. We pray to Allah for his recovery and for the shifa and afiyah of all others who are sick. For their well-being, please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم اشف كل مريض. صلاة العصر. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله وأن عليا ولي الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر حول الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. لا حول ولا قوة. استغفر الله. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور. اللهم أغني كل فقير. اللهم أشبع كل جائع. اللهم اكس كل عريان. اللهم اقض دين كل مدين. اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب. اللهم رد كل غريب. اللهم فك كل أسير. اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين. اللهم اشف كل مريض. اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام على علي أمير المؤمنين. السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة أجمعين. السلام على الأئمة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. صلوات